French President Emmanuel Macron is in Washington, D.C. for a state visit, which is likely to be dominated by differences over trade and the Iran nuclear deal. Trump's fondness for Macron was on full display as he was seen brushing something from the French leader's shoulder. While addressing the media, Donald Trump once again warned Iran to not follow through with the threats to restart its nuclear program, even as Macron struggles to find a middle ground to keep the pact intact.
We're going to be talking about it. We'll see. I mean, people know my views on the Iran deal. It was a terrible deal. It should have never, ever been made. We could have made a good deal or a reasonable deal. The Iran deal was a terrible deal. We paid $150 billion. We gave $1.8 billion in cash. That's actual cash, barrels of cash. It's insane. It's ridiculous. It should have never been made. But we will be talking about it.
But before they got down to business, Macron and his wife were given a spectacular welcome at the White House. Bands were playing the Star-Spangled Banner, which is the American national anthem. Meanwhile, the Iranian government urged European leaders to convince U.S. President Donald Trump not to tear up the 2015 accord between Tehran and the world powers. Macron had on Sunday said that there was no plan B for keeping a lid on Iran's nuclear ambitions. This is the first state visit for Macron that Trump is hosting since he took office in January 2017. Working meetings will be held between the two leaders, and Macron is also expected to address the Congress.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States and the President of the French Republic.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Melania and I are truly honored to welcome French President Macron, Mrs. Macron, to the White House. Thank you very much. It's a great honor. We're thrilled that the first official state visit of my presidency is not only with a great friend, but with a leader of America's oldest ally, the Republic of France. Today in our nation's capital, the Stars and Stripes proudly fly alongside the tricolor flag, a symbol of the world and to the world, of unity, fraternity, and friendship that forever links our nations together. 40 years after the end of our War of Independence, the great General Lafayette traveled to George Washington's home at Mount Vernon to visit the grave of the father of our country. President Macron, we're deeply moved that nearly 2 centuries later, the President of the Republic of France made that same tribute last night. It was a beautiful evening. Thank you. Thank you very much. This past summer, Melania and I had an incredible visit with you and Brigitte in Paris to celebrate Bastille Day. We were awed by the beauty of your country and the grateful hospitality of your incredible people. They are incredible people. Together, we commemorated the 100th anniversary of America's entry into the First World War. We remembered the French and American patriots who shed their blood together in defense of civilization. Their noble sacrifice will echo through time forever, an immortal tribute to our people and to our freedom. During the horror of the First World War, more than 1 million people were killed or injured from chemical warfare. In the aftermath of that horror, civilized nations came together to ban chemical weapons. 2 weeks ago, following Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad's barbaric use of chemical weapons against his own people, the United States, France, and the United Kingdom joined together to strike at the heart of the Syrian chemical weapons program. These actions were designed to establish a strong deterrent against the use of these heinous weapons. President Macron, I thank you for your leadership in this effort, and it was a well-executed effort at that. And I thank you, the members of the French military, for their courage and their great skill. The United States and France are also cooperating to prevent the proliferation of nuclear weapons. We are grateful for France's key partnership in our campaign of maximum pressure on the North Korean regime. As you know, I will soon be meeting with Kim Jong-un as we seek a future of peace, harmony, and security for the whole Korean peninsula, and in fact, for the whole world. However, in pursuit of peace, we will not repeat the mistakes of past administrations. The campaign of maximum pressure will continue. France and the United States also agree that Iran cannot be allowed to develop a nuclear weapon, and that regime must end its support of terrorism. All over, no matter where you go in the Middle East, you see the fingerprints of Iran behind problems. I also want to thank President Macron for France's vital contribution to our very successful campaign against ISIS. As we drive these ISIS killers from Syria, it is essential that the responsible nations of the Middle East step up their own contributions to prevent Iran from profiting off the success of our anti-ISIS effort. Very rich countries are in the Middle East. They have to make major contributions. They have not been doing it as they should. A major topic that we discussed a little while ago. They have to step up tremendously, not a little bit, but tremendously, their financial effort. Mr. President, on behalf of the American people, I again express our solidarity in the wake of the terrorist attack in southern France last month. I share the confidence you conveyed at the memorial service for the heroic Colonel Beltram, that in time we will achieve the ultimate triumph of right and of justice. In the fight against terrorism, we both know that we must be strong from within to defend ourselves from threats outside. We will do what we must to protect our countries. You are our oldest ally, and you are truly one of our great allies, and we appreciate it. We will always be there for you. Both the United States and France are dealing with a challenge that has gone on for a long, long time. It's uncontrolled migration. In the United States, we are taking strong action to regain control over our borders and over our sovereignty. It's gone on for too long, and we've slowed it down very substantially. But we're going to stop illegal immigration. I know that you face similar challenges in France, and Mr. President, I admire the leadership you have shown in addressing them in a very honest and direct fashion, and not always popular. Both of our elections owe much of the success to the desire of everyday citizens to be heard, to be listened to, and to have control over their own nations and their own futures. Let us demonstrate through our partnership that the voice of the people will always reign. At all times, it will reign. During our meetings today, we also discussed the robust economic relationship between our countries. The United States is setting records in business, and we will continue. And I know that France will be setting records under your leadership very soon. We look forward to exploring increased opportunities for bilateral trade and investment based on the principle of fairness and, importantly, reciprocity. Mr. President, thank you again for accepting our invitation to the White House. It's been such an honor. The foundation of our friendship draws from the deepest wells of civilization and is sustained by our people's love of their history, culture, and liberty. For 2 centuries, the alliance between France and the United States has been the cornerstone of freedom. Now the strength of this mighty alliance is in our hands, linked together by fate and destiny. I am confident that our future has never, ever looked brighter. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Donald.
Please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président, cher Donald. Merci à vous et à votre épouse Melania pour votre accueil. Et je veux vous dire combien nous sommes heureux avec mon épouse Brigitte et l'ensemble de la délégation française.
US President Donald Trump thanking French President Emmanuel Macron for his leadership and also for joining hands with the United States, as he pointed out, on the strikes in Syria. Also talking about how France and United States have a number of points of convergence, whether it comes to terrorism or even the issue of uncontrolled migration. Let's get in some further perspectives from our correspondent, Kevin McLeese, who's joining us on the broadcast. Kevin, hi. We were just listening into what U.S. President Donald Trump had to say and thanking France in as many words for, as U.S. President Donald Trump put it, a renewed effort to strengthen ties between the two countries. But very interestingly, also talking about the Syrian strikes, something that has come up for discussion, something that has dominated the discussions between the two leaders over the last few hours as well. Help us understand the significance of the statement that the president has just made.
Yes, that's right. Certainly over the Syrian strikes, a joint effort between Washington and Paris, they were on the same page politically and strategically going after Assad's chemical weapon infrastructure. They don't seem to be on the same page when it comes to the future of the Iran nuclear deal. And that's really the elephant in the room with these two leaders. And that's the mission that Macron has brought to the White House, to try and sort of work as a spokesperson on behalf of Europe to some extent, to try and convince this President of the United States not to kill a deal that today, just minutes before they stepped out together for this part of this, the first state visit by a foreign head of state to the Trump administration, the Trump presidency, saying he called it insane, he called it ridiculous, he described it as a terrible deal and it should never have been made. So if Macron was looking for some sort of fig leaf or way into negotiating, that's a pretty poor start.